I'm Dragos, and in this video we're going to take a look at the Traefik and how you can set it up on your own VPS. If you don't know, Traefik, it's a reverse proxy that can help you route the traffic from the internet to your Docker applications. Traefik is built special for Docker and it's working with Kubernetes and the new technologies. Traefik makes easy to add domains and SSL certificates to your Docker applications, and in this video we're going to take a look how you can configure Traefik on your own VPS server, how you can secure the VPS server, and how you can add all the configurations for Traefik so you can route the traffic that you are receiving to your applications to Traefik to your Docker containers easily and secure. With the SSL certificate, we are going to also deploy Dockge, which is an alternative to Portainer that can help you manage the Docker Compose applications easily. And yeah, in this video, we're going to do all of these things. In the beginning, when I have first take a look of Traefik, I didn't knew a lot. It was confusing for me, but after spending some time looking into the documentation and trying to configure it, I have seen that the case is not like this. It's not that complicated, but it's doing a very good job to help you manage your Docker containers and granting access to the applications via an URL. We're also going to configure the dashboard so you can log into the Traefik dashboard and see there more details. And yeah, in this video we're going to take a look of all of these things. And in here, for instance, I have the website. This is the Traefik website, and this is their dashboard. And I've also created an article with all of these things that we're going to take a look. So you can also go in here and follow the steps. And first of all, let's talk about the architecture of Traefik. So yeah, Traefik architecture, it's reside in three elements. Entry points, basically. The entry points are the points that it will tell Traefik on what port to listen for the requests that are coming. And in here you are basically setting up the HTTP and HTTPS ports that will listen on. Routers are responsible for directing the incoming traffic to the services, and they are just moving the traffic from the entry points to the application Docker containers. And between these you have also middlewares, and these middlewares are responsible for adding new things on the requests that are sent to the services or to the client. Basically in here you can add two-factor authentications, you can add headers, or you can rate limit and things like that. So these are the three elements that Traefik uses to manage everything for you. And with Docker, it's using tags to know what to do. We're going to check this in the things that we're going to configure. Let's get into the steps that you need to do and have Traefik installed on your server and be able to use it for your Docker applications. So this is the article, you can check it. So the first thing that you will need to have a VPS server, or if you're doing this in your home lab, you can have your own home lab server for this. For this purpose, I will going to use Hesner, which is affordable VPS service that can offer you very, very good VPS servers. And you can use DigitalOcean or other VPS provider if you want. And in here, the first thing that we are going to do is to go and add a server to this. And I will going to go and add a server. I will choose the Helsinki location, and in here I will choose Ubuntu for the server addition with the latest version. It will be an Intel one. And I will choose the smallest shape because in here I just want to demonstrate this. So you see, you can get an Intel one with 2 CPU cores and 4 GB of RAM with about 5 euros Indian or dollars. And in here I will enable the networking for everything. I will choose my SSH key. And in here I have a firewall create. We are going to check that. That will restrict the traffic to everything except the 22, 443 and 80 ports. So basically I don't want to have any ports exposed to this server because I want Traefik to route the traffic to all of my ports. I don't want to have like unauthorized access. And in here I will just put a name. And here I will put a name and I will hit create. And right now the server, it will be spinned off, and meanwhile I'll just copy the IP address, and for this you will need to have a DNS provider that will administer your domain. We're going to use TLS to create the certificates, and you can configure this on any DNS provider you have. It's not using the DNS challenge to do this. Basically, if you don't know, for Traefik to get the Let's Encrypt certificate, you have like 3 options. One is TLS, one is HTTP, and the other one is DNS. With this TLS you cannot get wildcard certificates. This is the downside, but you can configure it everywhere in each DNS provider you may have. And in here I have a domain bitdoze.link that we are going to use and configure this. So for this, first I will add an A record in here, and I will point the main domain to this new server that I have. I will not proxy this to simulate everything, all the DNS provider you may have. Okay, and then there are some options to redirect the traffic. So you can create, for instance, in here you can create CNAMEs, and you can create like for every record that or subdomain for each application you may have, you can create a CNAME. For instance, if you want to install Traefik, you can put like this Traefik, and then you can point this to the bitdoze link, the main domain, and you can create something like this for all the applications that you want to add. So every time when you will want to add an application, you just need to go in here and create the subdomain. You can even go levels down to create applications. So you can add, for instance, a dot and say local or things like that in here, or like create different structures. And you have the other options is to redirect everything to the bitdozelink.com. So for instance, in this way you will not need to add anything in here. So for instance, if you want to create an application with Flowise, you just let Traefik add the details in it, and DNS will know to route it to this server IP address. Basically, this is not really recommending, and the best option it will be to use the domain by domain or subdomain by subdomain in here to be more secure. But yeah, for this demonstration I will just redirect everything with a wildcard to the main domain, and I will save it like this. So right now, if I will add a subdomain that is pointing to this bitdoze.link in the Traefik, it will just redirect it to this A record and to this website. And the recommendation is to use CNAMEs, because for instance, if you're planning to change the server at some point, the IP, you will not need to change everything in case you are adding multiple subdomains in here and you are not using a wildcard. You will only need to modify the A record. So right now this DNS is configured. Again, you can use any DNS provider you may have. In this case, I'm just using Cloudflare, and yeah, right now the server is created. And the other thing is to go in there and create everything. And in here, for instance, you are going to check the firewalls. For this, you'll see that this is the default firewall. And in here, you see that I have let the connection open only for the 22 port. This is to be able to connect over SSH, the 443 HTTPS. And in here is the 80 port. Basically, we're going to redirect the requests that are coming to 80 port to the 443 port to have HTTPS in here. That's why I let this open, so the Traefik can receive this request and send them to the HTTPS port. Okay, let's go again and see our server. The next thing that we are going to do is to go and connect to this server IP address. So let me open the terminal. I have here a terminal, and for this I have a key already created. So I will just do SSH-E with the key root, and I will put the server IP in here. I will hit yes, and then right now we're connected to our server. You see in here it has the name, and the next thing that we're going to do is to go and configure everything on the server. So let me copy this. So this server are not having any swap. So with these commands, I will just add some swap files. It will add a 4 GB swap file to this server to have also the sub configure, because some of the application needs this. Again, if you're using different VPS provider, you already may have swap on. You can, for instance, just check with top, and in here you see the swap, and right now we are seeing that you don't have any swap in here. Let me run all these commands. So I'm just copying and pasting, and right now the swap is added. If you're running top, you'll see in here that you will have a swap file of 4 GB and is not used right now. Okay, let's go and do the other things. Then we are going to install Docker. So this, it's working on Ubuntu, and these commands will install Docker and Docker Compose for you. In case you don't have it installed, you need it to be able to configure everything. So let's go and install Docker in here. This should take about, I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes. It's fast. We just need to wait for everything to be installed. Hit yes in here. Okay, so Docker and Docker Compose is installed right now. If you run Docker, you'll see in here that we will have the commands for this. The next thing that we're going to do is to update the OS and reboot it. Yeah, it's a good practice to have the OS updated and reboot it to have everything. This Docker installation, it is done on root, just for you to know. You can run Docker without root if you want, but this is up to you. Another thing that I will do for this server to have it as secure as possible is to disable the root login access and create a new user with sudo rights that it will be used to log in. It will not be done in this video, but this is some simple steps that you can follow and secure even more your server. This tutorial is more focused on configuring Traefik and see exactly how it can work. So right now everything was installed and we're just going to reboot this. I'll just run reboot. The next thing that we're going to do is to create some folders that we're going to use for our Docker Compose files. I will create everything in under OPT. It will be called stacks. So in here I will have all the Docker Compose files, and in the end we are going to use Dockge to manage all of these things. We're going to install it and see how it's working also with Traefik. So let's go right now and see if the server is accessible, and we're seeing that the server is accessible. If you're going to check with top, you'll see that swap it's added again. And right now you have the servers with Docker and with the updates with the firewall created. And let's go and do this. And in here I will move to OPT. In here I will make a dir. I will make a directory in here to store the Traefik configuration. I will move into the Traefik, and in here we're going to create a Docker Compose file and the environment file. So in here we have the Docker Compose file. Let me open a code editor because I also have it in here. So in here you see, for instance, that this is the Docker Compose file that we are going to use. We are going to go through this and we are going to discuss it a little. In here you have the services. This is using the latest version of Traefik. It's using the 3.1. It has a container name. It will stop if this is not stopped by us manually. And in here you have some commands. Basically with Traefik you have the options to put these commands in here, or you can create a configuration file with all of these commands. For making things easier and see exactly what is happening, I will just use this command option and put everything in here. I have commented some of the things in here. This is to help you in case you have problems with this installation. And you see in here that if you have problems and things are not going correctly, you have the options to enable the log level to debug. It will create a log file into the Let's Encrypt Traefik log. And in here we have the API dashboard set to true. Basically this will enable the Traefik dashboard for us. Provider Docker equals true. Exposed by default false. So basically what this will happen, not every container that we're going to add in Docker will be added automatically to Traefik. You need to explain it specifically with this Traefik.enabled equals true. That's why I have it like this in here. For the endpoint HTTP address, so I've created an entry points in here for the HTTP address to listen on the 80 port, and it's called HTTP. I have also then redirected this HTTP to the HTTPS address. So every time when someone will try to request the non-secure HTTP to our application, it will be pointing to the HTTPS endpoint. And with these two lines of code, you are just doing this. You can create this at Traefik level, and also you can create this at domain level, but for this I want to have this as secure as possible, and every application should use HTTPS, so that's why I've added this in the Traefik configuration file directly. Here I have the entry point with the HTTPS, and here I have the certificate resolver. It will be called Let's Encrypt, and it will use the TLS challenge. Again, you have three options to create these certificates, and this one is with TLS challenge, and it will work with any DNS provider. You don't need to configure anything in there, like for the DNS one. And in here I have like a certificate resolver, and this is the staging server for Let's Encrypt, and you can enable this in case you have problems. Basically, if you are making too many requests to the Let's Encrypt server, they will block you, and that's why in the beginning, if you are seeing problems, it will be good just to use this staging certificate and check and see if the certificate is done with Let's Encrypt. That is, you are using the Traefik. Basically, this it will not have a valid one, but in there you will see you use Let's Encrypt to use it. And for the certificate in here, you will use your email address to create the certificate, and in here I will add the dragosh.bidos.com address. So I've added in here the dragoshbidos.com address, and in here I will just put the Let's Encrypt path with agmed.json. Basically in here you will have all the certificate generated in this file. So in case you want to recreate the certificates because you are using stage or things like that, you just need to delete this directory from there, because in case the certificates is added, it will not generate a new one for you, and it will look in here. So that's why in case you are creating different certificates in the beginning to test with stage and things like that, you just need to clean this directory up, and this directory it will be linked to a volume in our installation. And I have also put in here the security opt to not have new privileges. I've created a network for this and added this, or I will create a network for this. Right now it's not created, we are going to create it. So this container, it will use the Traefik net network, and here I've just opened this port 80N443, and in here I will have an environment variable called Traefik dashboard credentials, and this it will be set up in the environment file, and basically this credential will be used to access the Traefik dashboard. And in here you see that it's loading directly the environment file, you don't need to source it. And in here you have the volumes. So basically you have the Let's Encrypt volume that will be created in the directory that we've just created with stacks and Traefik. And in here you have the Docker socket. So basically this needs the Docker socket for this. So to read the containers that are added and the labels. So Traefik to configure everything in there for your container. And in here you have the labels. So basically in this way you are telling Traefik to add the details on your Traefik configuration. So basically this is for the dashboard, and like this we are going to use Traefik to add other applications. We are going to see exactly how you can do that. And in here you have the Traefik.enable. So Traefik knows that you want to add this into their configurations. And in here you have the routers with Traefik secure, and this will be the domain that we're going to use. And I will put in here the Bidoze link. In here I will put the endpoint. It will use the HTTPS endpoint. In here I will enable the API internal so the dashboard to work. And in here I will tell it what to use for the cert resolver. It's using the Let's Encrypt one that I've created in here. You see it has the name Let's Encrypt. And in here I will also add some middleware details. Basically this is the middleware that I was talking about, and in here I will tell it to use the basic authentication, and for the basic authentications to use the details that I've stored into the environment variables. And in here I have also telling him to use the TLS to true, and in the end I will have the network that will be added. It will be the Traefik network, Traefik minus network, and it will be external equals to true because we will just going to create it. So I will just copy everything right now, and what I will going to do, I will just go into the terminal, and I will use vi in here, and I will create a docker compose.yaml, and in here I will hit insert, and I will add everything in here. And right now all of this configuration should be fine. The only thing that I need to modify is the email address because it has 2 dots, I see in here. Let me modify this, make it correct. Okay, let me save this. So right now, if we're going to check this folder, you have this, and you can just cut it to see that everything gets added in here like this. Okay, so right now all the details are in this Docker Compose file. And the next thing that we're going to do is to go and create the network for this. Also in the article you have the explanation for all of these things, and I will create the network like this with this command Docker create, and let me run this. Okay, so right now the network is created. Let me clear this. The next thing that we should do is to go and add the environment variables for this. Let me open the article, and to generate the user and password, the Traefik needs the https passud to be installed. So to install it, you will need to run these commands. Let me open this. I will do a sudo update. I will just install this. So sudo apt install apache-utils. This is having this utility that will help us. So right now this tool, it will be installed. Okay, the tool is installed, and right now we should generate a password for our thing. So basically this is the command. So I will run an echo, and in here you have the $sign that will tell to execute this, and here you can put your user and password, and this is just to add an extra $sign, so to be known by Docker. Let me copy this command. Okay, so right now the string, it has been generated, and I will just copy it from here. And the next thing that we're going to do is create the file and add it in there. So let me open the editor. Okay, let me put it in here. And what I will going to do is to copy this and add it before to prepare everything. Okay, so right now we have the complete string with our password. And what we should do is to go and create the environment file. So vi.env. And in here I will just hit insert, and I will put the details. So in here you see that you have the hash for the password that was generated, and I will save everything. So right now we have also the .env file, and the next thing that we are going to do is to go and start the Docker Compose file. And to do that, we are just going to run Docker Compose -d. If you need to do this multiple times, you can force the create it for this. So let me start this. Right now this will start our container. It will pull the latest image from there, and it will apply everything. And right now, for instance, if you want to check the details to see if you have any errors for this, you can do that with docker logs Traefik. And you see that you don't have any log for Traefik, which is a good thing. And right now, if we check this directory in here, and we clear this, you will see that you have the Let's Encrypt. And if you're going to go in here, Let's Encrypt, you will see that you have the agmed.json file generated. And if we are going to check this file, you're going to see that you have the Let's Encrypt certificate generated, and you have the details in here for this certificate with the subdomain and everything. Okay, so these are the details. And right now, the next thing that we're going to go and do is to see the dashboard and see if the application it's working okay. I've put it also in here, some of the commands that you can use. For instance, if you want to connect to the container and see, for instance, if the variable is there, you can do that with this command. You can check the Docker processes with this command. And yeah, you see in here that it's running, and it's using the latest image. And right now what we should do is to see if our dashboard is working. And let me open a new window, and in here we'll put the traefik.bitdoze.link. And in here you'll see that you'll be prompted with a username and password to add, and these are the username and password that we've created. So the user, it will be bitdoze, the one we've created, and the password, let me copy it from here, because it will be this password with the 56 pound. And right now you see that you have the things added in here. You have the routers, you have the services, you have the middleware added. You can explore them in here if you want. So the dashboard, it's working correctly. You can use it and connect to it, and it's secured via an SSL certificate, and it has basic authentication to the dashboard. And right now let's go and do the other thing. So right now Traefik, it's up and running, it's working good. And the next thing that we're going to do is to go and add an application, so you can see how you can add this application. And in here I've created an application. We're going to use Flowise to install this. Let me open the other thing. So in here, Flowise, already created a video with Flowise. Basically this is an AI tool that can help you create AI flows with agents and things like that. You can deploy any application you want. In here I have the Docker Compose file, and it has been modified to use the Traefik configurations. The things that are different in here is the network thing that was added in here, and we need to add the network thing that we've created, the Traefik-net, to tell to use the same network, so Traefik to have access to these containers and be in the same network for the database. And in here for the database, the recommendation, if you want, is to create different external networks. Basically, you can create one for your front end like Traefik.net and one for your backends, and you can put the network for the backends in here to not have it in the same network if you want. Again, you can structure this in the way you want, but in here, to make things easier, I just put everything into the Traefik network. And in here again, you have the Postgres users and health check and things like that. And this is the Flowise application. And in here, if you are going to check, we're going to put the same network in here, so both of these to be the same in the same network to be able to use it and access it. And in here, if you see, you don't have any ports added, so basically I didn't expose the port to the VM directly because you don't need to do that. You will expose the port directly to Traefik, and in here you have the labels, and in here again Traefik enabled, it equal to true, and in here you have the options to add the roots. So in my case, I will add the root with Flowise, and I will tell a subdomain. Again, in here I will put the Bidoze link. For the subdomain, I will tell you to use the HTTPS. It will use the let's encrypt, and in here is the port that we're going to use. The port is stored in the variable. It will be the 3001, and we are going to see that when we are going to create the environment file. And in here, for instance, you see that you have the network that is external, and the only thing that we are going to do is to go and copy this, and we are going to create a Docker Compose file. So let me open the terminal, and in here I will just go and create a folder for this into the stacks, and I will make Flowise. There I will go into here, and in here I will make a Docker Compose file. I will hit insert to add everything in here. Right now everything is added, including the subdomain and all the things that this needs to start. I will just save this, and the next thing is to go and create our configuration, our environment files. And the environment files are also in here, and in here you see that you have the username to connect to Flowise, you have the port, you have the database details, and let's go and create this environment file. This environment file is not loaded directly into the Docker Compose file, and we will need to source it. And like this, I will just save this. And right now what we need to do is to go and source this environment file, so everything to be stored in the environment file, so Docker to use it. You can also add this environment file directly in there if you want, but mostly I'm using Dockge for this, and they are doing this automatically. So let me source this. So right now, for instance, if you do echo and you put the $, and you put, for instance, the port, you'll see that you have the 3000 port. And right now what we'll do is to start all of this. So I will start this. Again, the domain, it's pointing the flowise.bidoze link to this because it's already using the wildcard in Cloudflare. And to do this, I'm just going to run docker compose up -d. And right now it will pull the Flowise image with the database and everything. Okay. So right now the containers are started. If you're running docker ps, in here you will see that you have the Flowise, Postgres, Traefik that are started, and If we're going to check the dashboard, let me see if this is still open. In here you see that you should have some others routes. And in here we have also the Flowise that has been added. And right now, for instance, if you are going to go to this and open this, I will put a link. You will see that you have the Flowise that is up and running using an SSL certificate is automatically redirected to this HTTPS. And if you put your user that you set it in there, basically I put the same user and password, BDOS, you'll see that you have access to this and you can start building your flows easily without a problem. So yeah, like this, we are adding new applications. And the other thing that we are going to do is to install Dockge. So basically, if you don't know Dockge, it's an container alternative. It's like a lightweight thing that will help you manage your Docker Compose files more easily. With an UI, you can restart it, update it from there. You have the logs and things like that. We're going to check it. I already created a video in the past where you can set this up also with Cloudflare tunnel, so you can check that if you want. Basically, this is their Docker Compose files, but I've created a Docker Compose file special created for Traefik that we're going to use. So let me open that. And in here I have Dockge, and this is my Docker Compose file. And for this, I will just use the image again to start if it's not stopped. Again, you have the volumes in here. This is to read the applications that are there. And in here, for instance, I have the folder where I have the stacks. In my case, I'm keeping everything into the OPT stacks. As you have seen, I'm mounting in there. And in there, in the environment, you have this. And I've added a network. For this, again, this needs to be in the Traefik network, so to have the UI. And then I have the labels added. Again, I'm enabled Traefik for this. I'm creating the routes. It will be a Dockge one. I'll put the domain with the subdomain in here. It will be called Dockge, and I'll put in here bdose.link. And again, it will use HTTPS. It will use the Let's Encrypt, and it will use the 5001 port. This is the port that it's used by Dockge, and again, the ports are not exposed. I will let Traefik just add the port in there and have this working. So let me go and do the necessary things. I will not create this into the stacks. I will go and level up and create it in there, because this is how they're recommending. And I will do like this. I will just go in here. I will make dir and create Dockge. I will go into Dockge. Let me clear this, and in here I will create a Docker Compose file, compose.yaml, and in here let me copy the details that I have in here. I'll copy everything. I will just hit insert. I will add all the details in here, and right now I will save this. This doesn't need any environment file to work, so right now the only thing that we're going to do is to run Docker Compose up -d, and right now the image again it's pulled and it will be started. Again, this will take I guess about 20-30 seconds. Let's wait. If you don't have the DNS configured directly with wildcard, you should create before the dockge.domain.com or other extensions that you may have. And right now, if you're running Docker PS, you will see that you will have also the Dockge that it's started. So right now everything should be working. Let's go and open this and see if it's working. Dockge bdose.link. And right now we're seeing that this it's added. And we can go and add something in here. And I'll put my username. So basically create an account, put a password. And right now you're seeing that these are already in here. So you can go and check all of these things, and you can modify them with this interface. You have the logs in here that you can go and do. Now you see that in Dockge you have everything in here. You have the containers, you have the logs and everything. If you want to add something new, you just go in here and you just add it. You add the configuration and the details in here. You can choose the things you want. For instance, for Traefik, if you want to change something, this will work. Even if basically you are telling Traefik to use this. For instance, if you want to modify something in here, let's enable this logs. And let's say you want to save it. And right now, for this, you just hit update, and this should bring up the container in case there are no problems. And you see that right now it's pulling everything, and then it should refresh everything. So it's also working, and yeah, you can manage the Docker Compose application easily from here. And right now, for instance, if we're going to check, let me go to stacks. And in here, I'll go to Traefik. And in here, you see that we have the Let's Encrypt. And in Let's Encrypt in here, you will see that you have some details. And in here, you have the log, because I enabled it. And in here, if we're going to check the ACME.json, you will see that you will have all the certificates that were generated for each domain. Again, if you need to regenerate something, you just need to clean it up from here. And yeah, in this way you are using Traefik to route your traffic to your Docker containers. I will also create a video in the future with how you can generate a wildcard certificate with DNS challenge. And I hope this tutorial helped you understand the Traefik better and create your server easily. Thanks for watching, and yeah, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you like what you have seen.